Namaskara, my dear ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? I once met a CEO of a struggling company. Let us call him Julio. Julio was not lazy. Far from it. He reached office early, left late, chased customers, suppliers, production, quality, and cash, and probably knew more about everybody's problems than their own managers did. He genuinely cared about his people. His dream was simple. I want to build a good, committed team. There was just one small problem. Julio hated reports and reviews. We already have many meetings. Why waste time making reports? Let people work. I don't need a report. I know what's happening. And whenever the company struggled, Julio's solution was beautifully consistent: work harder. If that didn't work, work even harder. And if that still didn't work, find better people. One day, I asked him a slightly uncomfortable question. Julio, if you don't want your people to spend time reporting and reviewing their work, when exactly do you expect them to stop and think about their work? He paused. That was perhaps the first meeting where Julio had nothing to say. The problem was not that Julio wanted too much from his people. He wanted them to think. He wanted them to anticipate problems. He wanted them to analyze failures instead of giving excuses. He wanted them to come with solutions. He wanted them to take ownership. But what did his management system actually ask them to do? Work, hurry, respond, escalate, repeat. Whenever something went wrong, Julio stepped in. Customer complaint? Julio calls. Supplier problem? Julio calls. Production delay? Julio calls. Quality problem? Julio calls. Manager struggling? Julio calls. Eventually, I suggested something rather radical. Perhaps your company has not become dependent on bad people. Perhaps it has become dependent on a very hard-working CEO. He laughed. Then he stopped laughing and asked me, "What do you suggest?" My answer: reports and reviews. Let me explain. A report can be much more than a report. I have come to believe that a good report is not something produced after thinking. It is something that makes people think. Suppose I ask, "How much did you sell?" I get a number, almost immediately without much thinking. But suppose I ask, "What did you plan? What actually happened? What is the trend? What did you expect? What is the gap? Why did it happen? What do you now expect? What will you do?" Now the person preparing the report has a small problem. They have to think. They have to look at reality, compare it with expectation, understand the gap, question their assumptions, and decide what to do next. Suddenly, the report is no longer paperwork. It has become a thinking tool. That is the principle behind much of our work on reporting and dashboards. The purpose is not merely to display information, but to naturally move people from facts to questions, insights, and action. Then comes the second half, the review. But reporting alone is not enough. The real magic happens when someone reviews the thinking behind the report. Imagine a manager says, "We achieved 780 against a plan of 1,000. The traditional review might be, "Why didn't you achieve the plan?" Reasons, some very obvious, are explained as if the others can't figure out. End of meeting. Everyone goes home slightly delighted with the quick answers, but not necessarily about the problem. A better review might ask, what did you expect the machine to deliver? What actually happened? Why was your expectation wrong? What information did you miss? What will you change in the next plan? Now the manager is thinking, and perhaps learning. And next week, the report may be better because the thinking has become better. So the cycle becomes report, reflect, review, question, learn, act, report again. We call this recursive reciprocal reflection. It sounds sophisticated. It is actually quite ordinary. My report makes you think. Your questions make me think better. My next report shows whether I have learned. Do that repeatedly across an organization and something extraordinary begins to happen. The organization starts thinking. This is why we see irregular reviews as the organization prefrontal cortex at work. The doHow routines we have developed deliberately create this rhythm. Daily work management looks at performance, yesterday's successes and failures, deviations, containment, learning, and the rolling plan. The weekly one-on-one dialogue is all about building by exploring the passion, validating the achievements, recommending ways to overcome challenges, and mutually learning about a topic of common interest. And the weekly sharpening goes deeper into data, major gaps, root causes, corrective actions, and learning. The monthly review goes deeper still: stakeholder delight, business performance, thinking culture, critical gaps, functional excellence, decisions on resources, and changes needed in the system to drive better thinking. So these rhythms become beautifully simple, Daily, what happened? What can we learn? Weekly, why did it happen? How to be better? Monthly, what value is our thinking system creating? That is not bureaucracy. That is organizational learning. The CEO's real job may be different from what he thinks. A CEO cannot personally think about every customer, machine, supplier, employee, and problem, but a CEO can create a rhythm in which every responsible person regularly thinks about the things that matter. That is leverage. Instead of becoming the company's best problem solver, the CEO can gradually create hundreds of problem solvers. Instead of asking, how do I make my people more committed, perhaps ask, what system will help my people understand their work deeply enough to become committed to consistently deliver while continually improving it? That is a much more interesting question. And perhaps the answer is hiding in something that many CEOs have been trying to eliminate: reports, reviews. Not more reports, not more meetings, but better reports and better conversations around them. Because reports make thinking visible, reviews make conversations deeper, repeated reporting and reviewing make collective thinking habitual. And collective thinking continually builds organizational capability. That's recursive reciprocal reflection. Wishing you all the very best in answering the question, how to build a system that makes everyone think better. Thanks for watching, and looking forward to hearing from you soon.